So my name is Tanvir Allidina, and I'm a lecturer at De Montfort University in the School of Engineering and Sustainable Development. I'm a lecturer in embedded systems. I have just recently joined. I have just finished my PhD last year in computer science.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I've done my undergrad in mechatronics engineering.
Can you share with us your journey and inspiration that led you to pursue this career in computing and academia?
Yes, so growing up in Kenya, I've always found myself going against the crowd. So during my A levels, I was actually one of the only girls who had taken IT and physics. My parents had never set boundaries for us, so they never told me that because I was a girl, I could only choose certain paths or any, they didn't give me any restrictions based on my culture. So it was always like whatever I wanted to do. And I've always wanted a big life, you know? I've always wanted to experience everything. I was happy to break all stereotype rules that were set. As long as even if it was a path that was mainly male dominated, and if I had to walk that alone, I was happy to do it as long as it was something I really wanted to do. So
Mhm.
yeah, I didn't let being a woman limit me in those kind of situations. For my undergrad degree, like I said, I chose mechatronics engineering, which is a combination of mechanical, electrical, and software engineering. Now, I chose this because I was very passionate about building something and doing something, and I really loved physics and IT, so I didn't really know which field I wanted to go through. So I decided to go something broader, and I was like, I could always narrow it down. Now, choosing something like this also, and I chose De Montfort University to come and study this. And choosing something like this was excellent for me because it also allowed me to then do my PhD in computer science. And when I decided to do my PhD is actually in my third year of university, where I met Dr. Lipika Deka, and she was talking to me about a research project which involved self-driving cars and how to update the map through non-line of sight communication. And as soon as she told me this project, I just fell in love with this idea. And I remember thinking, I love this project. This is something I really want to know how to do. I just don't know how to do it, but I'm going to do this. Somehow I'm going to do this. So after I completed my undergrad degree, I got accepted to my PhD program. And there were lots of challenges that every PhD student faces. Every PhD student has their own traumas to share. But it was literally one of the best decisions I made in my life. And normally, when you're going through any journey, it's also the people you have around you. So having the right people around you is always great. And yeah, so when I was doing my PhD, I also did some teaching. So I did some teaching actually when I was doing my undergrad. Like I was one of the top students in my undergrad class, so a lot of my peers wanted some classes. So I used to hold little sessions in the library, which I really enjoyed. So when I got to my PhD, I got some opportunities to teach in the School of Computer Science as well as the School of Engineering. So I taught students how to program. I taught them different programming languages like MATLAB, Python, C++, Java. So after teaching them all of this, so once I completed my PhD, it just really felt natural to go into academia. So I applied to the School of Engineering for a full-time position in embedded systems, and that's how I made my way to academia.
Mhm. So, going back to what you said of being some kind of a rebel, um, being this male-dominated field, as you mentioned, did has had any impact in your career?
Um, it's been So not really. Like I think the only time I feel like I've had the biggest impact was my first year in university, where actually we were only four girls. And this was I think that hit me the hardest. One of the times
Mhm.
was that we had like so we're only four girls, so you couldn't really you like the groups were automatically chosen as soon as you came to the university. And I remember so in my group I was the only girl with all the other guys. And one of the guys refused to have me kind of contribute to the project. And he kept telling me it's because I'm a girl, I can't contribute, and I should be going to the lectures and taking all the notes. But it was interesting. That's the only experience I've had, and that never kind of set me back as well. So it was only like that was the only one experience, and after that, it was just one of those things that I realized that, you know what, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. It doesn't matter what anybody says, as long as you want to do it and you have your grades, you have your skills to show it. So I did beat him in all the other subjects, so it really didn't matter.
Did this incident involve some lecturer or something?
No, you see, so I was from Kenya. So originally when I came, I didn't realize this was actually something I could talk to somebody about. So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that actually was an option where you could speak to somebody about this. So no, I didn't speak to anybody about it. But because we had the other girls in the course, I actually spoke to them about it. And like they were very supportive and they were like, you know what, don't worry about him. And it just helps sometimes to kind of talk to somebody else. So it was enough for me at that point to speak to the girls. And after that, I like the term was coming to an end. So sometimes you feel like it's less of a hassle to make it an issue, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
easier to kind of get on with it.
In what ways do you think that diversity, including gender diversity, obviously, contributes to innovation and progress in the world of computing? And how have you seen this firsthand in your academic journey?
So I think with having a diverse background, it brings about diverse ways of thinking, problem solving, and approach and how you approach challenges. So there's a variety. So this variety can often lead to more innovative solution, and it encompasses a more wider range of perspective and experiences. So, like, just in my role in teaching at Demont University, we have a big diverse group of students, and this big diverse group of students normally brings a more richer discussion. It is normally presenting more unique viewpoints and approaches to certain problems. Um, and you have like different ways that you can learn. I don't know if you've heard this, but then there's this thing that depending on the language you speak, you have a certain way that you think. So different
Yeah.
people so your language influences the way you think. So having this diversity of people who speak different languages and coming together and communicating, they are thinking of the same problem in a different way, and this always brings a bit of a more innovative solution. Also, like one of the classes I teach, which is the advanced embedded systems, we had like about 3 or 4 girls in the class. The rest was all guys that were in the class. But out of my class, and this is one of the really difficult modules that a lot of students struggle with because it's very low level programming and it's C++. Now, in this class, the top student of my class who really grasped every concept from the beginning was a girl. Yeah, and she actually did extremely well in her cohort. So, like it kind of shows you that there's like talent isn't exclusive to any gender, culture, or background, but it having a more diverse team and leadership, we give ourselves the kind of the best chance to harness the full spectrum of talent ideas available, which could lead to groundbreaking progress in computing or any other field.
Could you highlight some specific project or research that you have been involved in that showcases the intersection of your academic expertise and its impact on society or technology?
So I think the biggest project I have been involved with, I'm still like early on my career, but the biggest project I have been involved in is my PhD research, which was on self-driving cars. So for my research, I developed a framework for non-line of sight safety critical scenarios for connected autonomous vehicles. Now, now, if you think about it, autonomous vehicles can see up to a certain point, yeah, but they cannot see around the corner. And in these kind of situations, you need another vehicle to communicate this information to the vehicle so it can react in a safe manner. But once this information is sent, how does the autonomous vehicle process this information? How fast is it able to process this information? And if we have a critical scenario, is it able to process this information in a very timely manner to avoid, let's say, a collision, or to avoid a collision, or to avoid, like, having that emergency braking where you're launching all the passengers forward. So this is one of the things that needs to be taken care of, especially we're having advanced technologies like autonomous vehicles. So currently we're in level 3 of autonomous vehicles, but my research was looking at level 5, which seeing the way technology is progressing, that's where we're going. So hopefully, as time goes on, we can develop this framework even further to ensure that we're fully able to test and fully able to show the safety of autonomous vehicles. I think this will have a great economic impact. So it will with this a project like this could have more safer and reliable safe driving car, means we will have more acceptance by the general public about this. This could lead to fewer cars on the road, which will reduce traffic congestions and will also have potential economic growth due to the decrease in transportation costs. And also there'll be some environmental implications, like with potentially fewer cars, and self-driving cars will be more electric. We'll have more efficient driving patterns. We could foresee the reduction in carbon emissions, which contributes to a more greener environment.
Mentorship and role models, obviously, they play a significant role in a career development.
Yeah.
Who were your role models?
So my biggest role model in my entire career has been actually two people. So first has been Dr. Lipika Deka. So she's
Mhm.
actually an associate professor in computer science, in the School of Computer Science, and she's a member of the Institute of Artificial Intelligence as well as Software Technology Research Laboratory at De Montfort University. She's big on women empowerment and really really supports other women. So she's been one of my biggest role models. My second one is Dr. Daniel Peluskazin. So he was also in my supervisory team, and he has experience in control engineering, and this was over 10 years of experience in designing, testing, and optimizing different control strategies with different hybrid systems. And both of them have a big range of research and paper publications that have they've had. Now, I'm originally from Kenya, and in my family or community, nobody has ever done a PhD. So nobody knows what a no. When I decided to do a PhD, nobody knew what a PhD was. I didn't fully understand what I was getting into. And I didn't know anybody that had previously done a PhD. So having both Lipika and Daniel as part of my team made it a lot easier, because all at that time all I knew was I'm really passionate about this topic, and if I do this research, I will get a doctor title at the end. That's all I knew. But yeah, during my PhD, like Lipika had been a guiding star for me. She was a prominent figure in computing research herself. So she did not only provide me invaluable academic guidance, but she also helped me navigate the challenges of being a woman, and more so a Muslim woman, in a predominantly male field. And the countless discussions we've had, which range from integrate algorithmic challenges that I had to managing a work-life balance in academia. So it was always like having Lipika by my side through my PhD has been the biggest blessing. And then also having Daniel. Now, Daniel joined my supervisory team in my first year of my PhD, and he's always like he's really good in the technical side, and he's got amazing programming skills. So he's really helped me hone my own programming skills. I wasn't very strong with programming when I first joined my PhD, but it was like he'd seen this potential in me, and he'd always encouraged me to keep going. He'd always encourage me to keep going, and he'd always give me like an hour every week. We would sit an hour, a few hours every week. We would sit down. I'd bring my computer, and we'd figure things out. And he'd give me little challenges like, oh, let's see who can figure this bit out first. So it always kind of always find a way to push me. And yeah, without both Lipika and Daniel, I would not be where I am today.
Women's contribution in computing have been overlooked through history. Can you share with us a story or example of a female figure in computing that you believe that deserve more recognition?
Yes. So I think somebody that I think deserve more recognition, um, and I think has recently got recognition, but I don't think has fully been appreciated, is Dorothy Vaughan. So her story, alongside those of other Black women mathematicians at NASA, like Katherine Johnson, Mary Jackson, all gained more attention recently due to the book or film that I'm sure many people have now watched, is Hidden Figures. But for many years, her achievements remained largely unknown to the general public. Now, let me tell you about Dotie's story and why I think it's incredible. Yeah. So she was born in 1910. Yeah. She was an African American mathematician who worked at NASA. Now, she began her career at the Langley Memorial Aeronautical Lab in 1943, where she was part of this segregated unit of Black women who worked as human computers. Now, these women performed like complex mathematical calculations by hand, and this was very crucial for aeronautics and later for the space industries. Now, recognizing her talents and leadership capabilities, she was promoted to the head of in the West Area Computing Unit in 1949, making her the first African American supervisor at NASA. And in this capacity, she advocated for the women in her division, ensuring they received opportunities and recognition for their work. Now, what had happened is we had the era of electronic computers coming. So as electronic computers started coming and they began to replace human ones, Walcon actually saw this, yeah, and she saw this potential of becoming obsolete of manual calculation. And instead of becoming complacent, what she did was she taught herself and her team the Fortran programming language, ensuring that they remained relevant and they were evolving in this, in this field of space exploration. This proactive approach of hers made the transition smoother for her and her team, which solidified their roles in the early days of electronic computing and NASA. Now, beyond her technical contributions, she also broke a lot of barriers for Black women in leadership roles at that time in both gender and racial segregation. So she paved the way for many women and people of color in STEM fields. Now, Dorothy Vaughan's story exemplifies resilience, foresight, and leadership. Like Hidden Figures has done a good job to try and bring her and her colleague's story to the light, which is actually how I found out about her first. But there's still so much more to do in ensuring that the women's contribution in computing and other fields are appropriately acknowledged and celebrated. Because I think even like growing up, I didn't think I knew many women, and I think if I had known of many women growing up, that would have really um, helped motivate me even more.
Mhm. So now that we are talking about women who have been overlooked, and also you mentioned at the beginning that in Kenya it was not the normal thing for you to pursue a career in computing.
Yes.
Um, what do you think that are the most crucial steps that we can take to encourage women to pursue a career in computing or similar fields?
So I think the first step we need to consider is maybe early exposure. So to introduce girls to computing and STEM concepts in very early age. So like for example, toys, games, educational kits, which focus on science and engineering. This can make a really big difference on like, the passions they form. And I think it's also important to kind of see what books we're giving our girls to read. Yeah. So, for example, like I know like girls tend to read a lot of books like Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty. And in those kind of books, the narrative we're telling the girls is that you need to wait for Prince Charming to come and save you. Or so, it kind of brings the girls up with that kind of narrative. So I think maybe kind of changing the narrative. So I know there's a new book now that's really good for girls like Good Night Stories for Rebel Girls, which is 100 stories of inspirational women who have done incredible work. So maybe that would come under early exposure. But also like having different competitions where we encouraging female participations in these competitions. So for example, we could have coding competitions, science fair, or other STEM related events. But when what we can do in these kind of competitions is really encourage girls to take part as well. And this will not only boost their confidence, but also offer them networking opportunities, kind of show them that, oh, there is this, or this is something else that we can do. Having clubs and organizations that really helps. So like there's having support clubs like Girl Who Codes or Women in Engineering at schools and university. And this kind of peer support groups often, it often kind of leads to more exposure in this kind of careers. by kind of implementing some of these strategies, the society, we can kind of have a shift to the perception and pave the way for, young women to have more careers in STEM disciplines.
Mhm. Tech industry
Mhm.
is evolving rapidly. How do you stay current with all the advancements and trends, and how do you incorporate them in your teaching and academic research?
So I think with the evolving of tech, especially, I think it's very important to have your continuous learning development. So we see online courses. So like I really like to. I love my Udemy courses. So I'd like to buy courses in Udemy and at least try and complete two courses every year. But it's kind of having like completing little courses in areas that interest you, in areas that you want to grow in. That's one of the ways. I think also attending workshops and seminars. So workshops will kind of give you the hands-on experiences, and being able to do more hands-on work. That's another way to kind of improve your skills, and also kind of improve your skills to see what's latest out there. Attending conferences, that's a really big one. So if you attend conferences, you'll be hearing more about all the latest researches, all the latest innovations in your field. So for example, if I attend a conference and they talk about, let's say, safety of autonomous vehicles, I'll be able to see what everybody, in the field just now is working on. So that's always really useful. And as well as when you're attending conferences, you always come out with networking with other people who have similar research interests. So they may tell you something that's innovative in the field that maybe you haven't come across. And most importantly as well is reading, constant reading of journals, and especially because journals will always kind of give you the cutting edge in the developments of your specific domain. So that always helps. And doing all of this, like to develop yourself, I think it always also helps in your teaching. So when it comes down to teaching your students, you're not only just teaching them that what has always been taught, but you're updating them with the most recent relevant knowledge. So when they go into industry, they're more prepared. They don't feel like they've been given out to date knowledge. And as well as, like, when you're discussing your final year projects with the students. So this year I'm going to be in charge of the electronic and electrical engineering final year projects, individual projects. And what we are looking at is using the 17 sustainability goals for that the UN have. And it's about, constantly moving forward. Like, all the companies are doing this, everybody is looking into this, and as well as, we need to be, yeah, developing ourselves and looking forward to yeah, the next step.
So my last question is, do you have any advice for young women starting or thinking to start a career in computing or related fields?
Yes. So some of the advice I'll give young women is, first is believe in yourself. Yeah. So this is the main foundation, I think, is because when you're in a field like this, you're always going to doubt yourself. You're always going to face challenges. But in any field, you do face challenges, and it may seem a bit more daunting since this is a more male-dominated field. But honestly, just believe in yourself. And then second is you have to embrace the continuous learning process. Always just be curious, because the field of computing and engineering is ever evolving. So just stay curious. We always be open to learn new things, either through formal education, online courses, workshops, personal projects. Always try and learn something. Don't be deterred by failure. So I always tell all my students who I teach programming, with programming, most of the time is your debugging. Yeah, so you're going to write your code and you're going to be spending a lot more time debugging, and that's okay. Like, you should really embrace failure, because failure is part of growth. And yes, and just remember you belong regardless of the challenges and biases you may face. Just remember that you belong in the world of computing just like anybody else, and your perspective, your skills, and ideas are just equally as valuable.